I'm State Senator Mark C. Jansen, and I'm Senator for the 28th State Senate District. And today on the program I have with us Treasurer Bob Kleine, who I want to welcome you for coming today.
Yeah. Glad to be here, Mark.
Well, good. Thanks for coming. We've got to know each other a little bit over the last couple of years since I've been in office.
I will say I've enjoyed working with you on the MBT and other issues.
Yeah, so we've worked together on the MBT and some of the appropriations revenue pieces of that. So what I would like today is to kind of get people to understand kind of what Treasury is, what does a state treasurer do. You know, I think some people think about what the treasurer is in their minds, and immediately a couple things come to mind. But I'd like them to kind of get a sense of what happens here at this in the state of Michigan. But before we do that, I'd like to find out a little bit about you and your background, and you know, how you came to be the state treasurer, and then maybe some of the duties of the state treasurer.
Okay. Well, first of all, I was appointed by the governor in April of 2006. My background is both in the private and the public sector. I worked for state government back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s for about 18 years. I was director of the Office of Revenue and Tax Analysis. And then I spent nearly 20 years in the private sector as an economic consultant. I worked for public sector consultants located here in Lansing for quite a while. And you know, I've done a lot in the area of tax policy. That's probably my key area of expertise. And I think that's probably the reason why, you know, the governor selected me.
Okay.
And as far as, you know, what the treasurer does, well, first of all, I manage a department of about 1,300 people.
Okay.
We collect about $27 billion in taxes. We manage about $50 billion in pension funds for state employees, teachers, judges, state police. Also about $5 billion in trust funds, like the Children's Trust Fund, the Natural Resources Trust Fund. We also work with local governments. We monitor local government finances, and we help out local governments if they're having financial problems. We issue the bonds for the state, about $10 billion a year in bonds for different projects for the state. And we also have the financial aid. We monitor or administer financial aid for the state, including the Michigan Education Trust, the MET program, and the Michigan Education Savings Plan, which are plans, you know, to help people send kids to college. Actually, we probably have more responsibilities than almost any state treasury department in the nation, because most treasury departments, they don't collect taxes and they don't, you know, handle local government issues. So it's a lot of responsibilities, and I also serve as the chief economic and tax advisor to the governor.
Okay. When you say local governments, then you're talking
townships, counties, cities.
Okay,
yeah.
so every kind of form of local government, you're kind of overseeing their financial
you know, they're required to submit, you know, annual audit statements to the department. We, as I say, we monitor. You know, we've got a kind of a scoring system to determine how well local governments are doing, so we can identify those that may be having problems. And we do have a process, which is PA 72 of 1990, where we can do a review, a fiscal review of a local government, and in some senses we may, circumstances, we may have to appoint a emergency fiscal manager, which we've done in Highland Park and in the village of Three Oaks currently.
As far as kind of the operations of the state of Michigan, now I would say that probably the Department of Management and Budget does that, but do you have any role with kind of the daily operation of state government? Well,
I would say that the main role, and something I probably should have mentioned, is that we do manage, you know, the state's cash flow, all the cash that's coming in and going out. Currently, we have an average daily balance of about $2.7 billion on hand at any one time, which we invest short term.
Sure. And
so, of course, you know, we're basically the state's banker.
Yeah.
And we take the money in and we pay the bills. We send out about over $1 billion in local revenue sharing money, you know, to cities, villages, and counties.
Sure.
So.
And then schools, that was what really struck me, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but schools on a monthly, you know, we all think of our mortgage of, you know, being a big payment, but give the folks an idea of I think monthly of how much you just send out to the school aid.
It's over $1 billion every month.
So we think we have big mortgages. You,
Yeah, right.
You're
Yeah,
having to spend over $1 billion a month
yeah.
just for really K through 12
K through 12
education.
education, that's right.
So
Yeah.
pretty amazing. I've always, that struck me when I first got elected.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about Department of Treasury, and that's really, some of the purpose of it, and then maybe some of the activities that you normally do. And you talked some bigger picture things, but what are some of the kind of daily things?
Well, some of the daily things, I guess the main thing would be in terms of processing tax returns. Income tax returns. We also, of course, collect sales taxes and tobacco taxes and gas taxes and so forth. But we have, maybe as many as 5 million tax returns coming in every year. Okay. Of course, we have a customer contact center where we get, I think, about 30,000 calls a month normally, but during tax season, maybe about 50,000 calls a month with tax questions and so forth. And we also have, of course, auditors who are going out on a daily basis to audit businesses and individuals, make sure that they're paying their fair share. Of course, we have our Bureau of Investments, and on a daily basis is monitoring the markets and trying to determine what's the best way to invest our money. Okay. We again, as I said, we manage the common cash, so we have to have people who keep on a daily basis exactly how much is coming in, what are the bills that have to be paid, and so forth, and then someone is investing that money. We have our our student financial aid people who are kind of working with the local high schools and so forth, and others to make sure that students can get the aid they need to go to college.
So when we think of the Promise, well, it used to be called the Merit Scholarships.
Yeah, it's all going to be kind of.
It's being talked about putting all together.
Yeah, all together.
So that is run out of Treasury also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. So my daughter just filled out her Merit Scholarship to collect it next year when she goes to college. She had to fill it in and send it in.
Right.
It came into Treasury then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the state, some of the things that are going on. I know sitting on appropriations, I look at a lot of the revenues, which then obviously you do also. So we collect taxes in, I'm just thinking of a long list in my mind. You mentioned a couple of them. So if you could just give us a few ideas of other taxes that are collected. You mentioned a couple. What kinds of taxes are we collecting here in the state of Michigan?
Well, our biggest, of course, the biggest is the sales tax, which is like over $7 billion. And then the income tax is the next largest, about $5.5 billion.
Okay.
We also about the new Michigan business tax is going to be around 2.6 billion, something 2.5 billion. Tobacco taxes amount around $1 billion. The gas tax, which is I think somewhere over close to $1 billion or so, also. And those are the largest, and there's some smaller ones, but those are the main ones.
Those are some of the big ones.
Yeah.
And then do we collect when folks collect federal taxes at the retail level? Do those go on then to the federal government, or do they come here to the state and then you pass them on?
No, they come to the state.
Okay, so you have to.
Those are monies that are used to finance the state programs.
Okay.
Healthcare and education and so forth.
All right.
And I forgot to mention another big one, which is the state education tax, 6 mills statewide tax, which is over $2 billion, which was part of the school reform package. Back in 1994.
Yes, before I got here.
Yeah, right.
But you were here, so
right.
Well, you bring up some good points thinking about the federal government, and I guess what's your role or state treasury's role with federal government? And then maybe if you could just talk about in that same kind of line the stimulus. I mean, there's a lot of talk. President even talked last night. I'm thinking about the passage of the new stimulus package, and just what does that look like for us as a state, if you will?
Right. Well, in terms of the stimulus package, our kind of involvement really has been sort of to determine exactly how we're going to spend the money. We've had 5 task forces working in a lot of different areas to make sure that when the money comes, we're ready to go. I mean, particularly in the areas of infrastructure and education and so forth. And the money, of course, it will come into Department of Treasury, and we'll kind of be managing the flow. We'll be investing it short term, and then it'll be going out to the various areas. But we think it's going to be a major benefit to the state of Michigan. We're getting, I think the number is somewhere maybe around $7 billion in direct fiscal stimulus aid.